Happy NFL Combine, everyone. We are one step closer to the NFL season returning, and that means free agency and the draft. But first, we got to watch Rich Eisen do his best 40-yard dash. So we have a lot to talk about on today's show because Andrew Berry spoke to the media today for about 15 minutes, and he enlightened us with a whole bunch of updates on important guys like Nick Chubb and not so much of an update on Nick Chubb, but Deshaun Watson and others. So a lot to talk about on today's show. But first, we're going to let the audience build up a little bit because I know everyone is getting a little bit used to the new start time, at least just for today. We're at 5:30 Eastern today because the interview was at 12:30, 1 o'clock-ish, and I just wanted to give that some breathing space before I started my live show, so I pushed it back an extra 30 minutes. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of today's live show, let's get you guys involved in the comment section right now. How would you grade Andrew Berry as a GM? I ask this question because Chat Sports sent 6 delegates up to Indianapolis to cover the NFL Combine, and one of those delegates was my coworker and friend Chase Sr., who covered the Andrew Berry press conference, recorded it, and helped us get it onto the channel. And he slacked me after the Combine interview was over and was like, Andrew Berry is one impressive dude. I was like, every time he talks, I just sit back and I am amazed that the Browns have one of the brightest minds in football on their sideline, as Andrew Berry is one of the most intelligent and articulate and just overall fun to listen to GMs across the National Football League. So I would give Andrew Berry an A grade. I think he's doing an amazing job. He's got this Browns roster with some of the best in the NFL. There is talent all over this roster. For me, it's an A grade. But let me know what your grade is down below in the comment section. As Ken G, ladies and gentlemen, starting the Super Chat day off with a $20 piece saying, "Sup, Petey?" Ken G, what's going on to you, my man? 2 entries for Ken G, by the way. I'm not even sure if he knows this, for our Nick Chubb autographed helmet giveaway, which we are doing today. We have been building up to this all month long, but this is the final live show for the month of February, which means a $10 super chat gets you entered into our Nick Chubb autographed helmet giveaway, and a $50 super chat, or I guess we'll say this is the biggest super chat because 50 is the biggest right now. So anything bigger than a $50 super chat will get you the Browns Report autographed MVP football. Right now, Jeremy Stallman's the MVP of the month with a $50 super chat, but if you send in $51, you become the MVP. I'll sign this football and we'll mail it to you so you can add it to your man cave. So that's what we got going on today. But Ken G, ladies and gentlemen, good to see you. I feel like it hasn't been too long, but it's been a little while since I think you last popped into the chat. So always great to see you. I hope you're doing well, man, and appreciate you stopping by yet again. Shout out your city for me. Let me know in the comment section where you are tuning in from. We got over 50 people hanging out with us right now on a Tuesday afternoon in late February. I want to know where everyone is watching from, as Sean Finnerty is sending in another $10 super chat. We got Dayton, Ohio. I've got more Dayton, Ohio. Harold is in Ohio. Everyone's in the Buckeye State, it looks like. Let's see. East Rochester. We got Ty Man. You're not in Brazil. Are you actually in Brazil right now, Ty Man? Hi, man, don't lie to me. Don't yank my chain here. Jacob's in Cleveland. Hope you're doing well, Mr. Smith. I got Dublin. I got Columbus. Cool guy is in Maryland, as always. Yeah, Ty, man, I know you're not in Brazil. You're a funny dude. Funny dude. Sean, by the way, with a $10 super chat. That's another addition for Sean for the Nick Chubb helmet giveaway. We're going to do that raffle at the end of today's live show. So make sure you stick around with it. Keep it rolling, PD. Is there an emoji? No, I don't know why there's just like a, I don't know. Somewhere in the YouTube language it got lost. But hey, Sean, appreciate you. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. I hope you're having a good Tuesday and hope you're ready for what's not going to be, I think, the most like blockbuster free agency for the Browns. They made a lot of signings last offseason. I think the Browns are going to work towards just bringing back some of their guys this offseason. Last offseason was an offseason where they went out and they purchased, they shopped, right? They went out and they got Juan Thornhill. They brought in Shelby Harris, Maurice Hurst. They made a lot of additions on defense. Dalvin Tomlinson. This offseason, let's bring back some of those key guys. Let's bring back a Maurice Hurst or a Jordan Elliott or a Shelby Harris. Let's hold on to a Takitaki or an Anthony Walker because that defense was flying around last year. Why would we break up that mojo? It worked so well. Yeah, you want to make some improvements, and improvements do have to be made, but I don't think you have to rip it to shreds and start all over aside from Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward and other key pieces. Jeffrey Anderson with a $10 super chat. Mr. Anderson. Jeffrey, salute to you. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. That is another addition for the Nick Chubb autographed helmet giveaway as Jeremy Stallman strikes again. Look at this. Can't even get the plate off the ground. And our friend in the air, Jeremy Stallman, with a $50 super chat. Let's go, Jeremy. Well, happy Tuesday. Well, $50 to the cap. Hope we have some good news. Keep up the great work. Let's go, Browns. Jeremy, bow down to you, buddy. Everyone spam Jeremy in the chat. Let's go, Jeremy. I do love Jeremy's just belief of $50 in super chats will get more cap space for the Browns. I don't think it works that way, but damn, I love that you're trying because that's a guy that cares right there. That's a guy that gives a shit. Jeremy Stallman's a foxhole guy. That's a guy I want to get in the trenches with because I know I'm coming out alive with Jeremy next to me. Let's go Brownies, Jeremy. Let's go Browns. Salute to you, my man. Let's go, Jeremy. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, fun show planned today. I'm pumped up right now because I have been feeling under the weather. Went to a bachelor party over the weekend in Florida, and I was sick pretty much the entire time. I did learn I have a love for darts. I played darts before, just very, very casually at the bar, but this was a bachelor party with legit dart guys, and we played a lot of darts, and it was electric. Didn't realize how much fun darts truly can be, but if you're a competitive person, you get swept up in darts tournaments, there's no leaving the bar. We dominated. Jacob, you're the man. Appreciate you, Jacob Smith. But yeah, I was feeling under the weather the whole trip, kind of battled a cold. It was not a great time to be sick on a bachelor party. And then I came back, and I thought I kind of kicked the cold, and I don't know. I'm not quite out of the woods, or not as much out of the woods as I want to be. So hopefully tomorrow I feel much, much closer to 100%, but no sick days here. I don't think I've ever had a sick day at Chat Sports. I'm not starting today. All right, what's your confidence level in Deshaun Watson? Because I've seen a lot of discourse online about whether or not the Browns are going to be big spenders in the wide receiver market in free agency. And I do think there is a fair point to make of, hey, Petey, I don't understand why the Browns need to go out and spend big money on a guy like Mike Evans. They have a number one wide receiver in Amari Cooper. They have a $230 million quarterback in Deshaun Watson. Wasn't the whole point of investing all that money in your quarterback so that you don't have to have an unbelievable amount of receivers? It doesn't add up, right? The whole point of an expensive quarterback is they can lift up, lesser paid wide receivers, if you will. And I don't think you're necessarily wrong. I don't. I do think the thing that changes, or what I would counter to that point, would be the AFC this stretch is just, it is the Cold War, but it's not just the U.S. and the Soviet Union. There's 5 countries in this Cold War. You've got the Chiefs, you've got the Bills, you've got the Ravens, you've got the Bengals, you've got the Browns. You've got a lot of really talented rosters. And I don't think having just one good wide receiver in Amari Cooper is going to be enough to slay Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. I think you have to overdo it. I do. And so if the Browns were in the NFC, listen, I'd be completely on the same page of in the NFC, it's the 49ers head and shoulders above everyone else. The Cowboys are frauds. The Eagles are kind of becoming frauds with the way they bowed out last year. You don't need to have super duper duper stars to take down the 49ers. The Browns did that with PJ Walker. But in the AFC, it feels different. It feels different. All right, so what's your confidence level? Oh my goodness. Jeremy Stallman with another $50 super chat. Jeremy Stallman. What's going on, dude? Well, hope you get feeling better, but here is $50 to your next $20 super chat. Put their name in. Let's spread the kindness and good vibes. Jeremy Stallman is the most philanthropic person I've ever met on YouTube. The guy has the biggest heart for all Browns fans, putting together a 50. So here's what we're going to do, because he says, to your next $20 super chat, put their name in. I think, Jeremy, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, you're referring to putting them in for the Nick Chubb helmet giveaway, if I'm reading what you're putting down there. Jeremy, I love what you're doing. I kind of want to expand on it, if you don't mind. I think with Jeremy's $50 super chat right there, how about just the next 5 people that super chat, no matter the value, doesn't matter, 1 cent, $1, just the next 5 super chats, they're going to be entered into the Nick Chubb helmet giveaway. Make sense? So we're waiting for the next 5 super chats, no matter the amount, and they're going to get entered into the Nick Chubb helmet giveaway. Next 5, no matter the amount. And you've added Jeremy 5 times for each 50? Okay, perfect. Okay, add Ryan Chowdhury. That's 1. That's 1 right there. That's 1. We have 4 more. 4 more. Next 4 super chats, no matter the amount, get an entry in for the autographed Nick Chubb helmet giveaway, thanks to Jeremy Stallman's very generous sponsorship. Let's see. Who we got? We'll keep a tab on it. Ryan Chowdhury with a $1 super chat. Appreciate you, Ryan. All right. We do have a show to get to. So, Ryan, you're getting a second. Yep. You are getting a second. All right. Are we... Jacob Kistner with a $10 super chat. Jacob Kistner. Ken G, let's go! Dog Pound's coming alive, baby. Let's go. Let's have ourselves a Tuesday afternoon. What do you guys say? Let's go Brownies, baby. We'll add Jacob Kistner. We'll add Ken G. Add Ryan Chowdhury yet again. We got a new guy, newish guy. It's Cullen Brown producing today. No Trace. Trace is part of the crew in Indianapolis, and Cullen's been here since the beginning of the year, so he's picking things up, but we're going to give him a little bit extra slack because bullets are flying right now with the Super Chat Palooza coming in, as we've got another Super Chat rolling in from Tim Green. Let's go. Tim Green, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Dog Pounds come to play. Ken G, let's go. Let's go, Brownies. Ken, let's go. I'm ready for free agency. I'm excited for this draft because I think the Browns are going to hold on to their second-round pick. Last year, they traded it to get Elijah Moore. This year, I get the sense they're going to hold on to it. And they have not had a second-round pick or a first-round pick for a while, right? Didn't have one last year. Didn't have one the year before that. So we got to go back a ways. Since they took 2023, 2022, 2021, took Greg Newsome round 1 and JOK round 2. Ryan Chowdhury increased the odds. Yes, sir, you did. Yes, sir, you did. Let's go. Tim Green with a $20 super chat. That gets Tim Green in there twice, by the way. What happened? The whole. Okay. So, all right. One moment. I just got to break it down with this producer. What I would suggest is putting all the names in a Slack and then slacking it to the computer and then copying and pasting it into there. That's what I would do. Okay. Yeah. Sean, let's get Sean's super chat on screen. PD, any idea why that little OBJ in parentheses shows up after my chat? Is that what it says? You're right. Sean, I truly have no idea. I don't know. My thought was that sometimes emojis, like some emojis, don't communicate with our software and they pop up as just like random characters, but you're not including an emoji in your chat. Because usually I can see them on the YouTube side, but there's a disconnect from the YouTube to our software, and that's when it turns into a bizarre set of like characters, basically, like hieroglyphics. And I have no clue why that's happening with you. So maybe it's a sign that Odell Beckham Jr. is coming back. Do you guys think OBJ is going to have any kind of market this offseason? He had some good plays for the Ravens last year, but that was a panic pay by Baltimore. That was a panic pay to, calm the waters with Lamar Jackson. Let's go out and get a big-name wide receiver for him. And ultimately, OBJ did not produce much for the Ravens at all last year. Really makes you wonder, like, is OBJ going to be that guy that we talk about in July because it's, really boring and there's nothing to talk about then for the NFL? Could the Browns or insert team sign Odell Beckham Jr.? Every single year, there is a receiver like that. Who remembers like the Will Fuller, right? That one just never seemed to quit. I wonder if that's OBJ this offseason. I don't understand though, Sean, why it's doing that. Maybe I don't know if I'm getting got right now. Am I getting got? That's a possibility. I've got a pretty good got radar, but it doesn't deflect all intruders. So some do sneak through. That has happened before. I can admit to that. All right, we have 67 people tuned in, just 23 likes. Can we get up to 30 likes, please? If you have not liked the video yet, make sure to go ahead and do so. That way you do not miss a single thing when it comes to the Browns news and rumors. And that way it also selfishly boosts our, channel to more Browns fans watching. Okay. We'll wait for Mr. Cullen to get all caught up on the, Nick Chubb helmet giveaway palooza we got going on right now. But we do have a fun show mapped out for you guys today. We're going to recap my big takeaways from Andrew Berry's press conference. We'll even throw it to Mr. Berry for a few moments to let him speak for himself. And then we're going to talk about some free agency rumors. Mary Kay Cabot dropped a pretty good article about what she's hearing involving some of the marquee Browns free agents. So we're going to check out those names and see what the latest is on them potentially returning to Cleveland. And then, as always, we have a mailbag to wrap up the show. I love the mailbags because I think it's a great opportunity for any subscriber to just join the live show, ask a question, get on screen for everyone watching to see. So if you have any question at all, don't be afraid. Go into the live chat right now. Toss that question or that take, if you will, in there. Hashtag Browns. You do have to put the hashtag Browns somewhere in your message, beginning, middle, end. That way our software can read it, pull it, and we can put it on screen. Or if you want to super chat to guarantee yourself on screen, you're more than welcome to. If you super chat a question, we will include that at the beginning of the mailbag. If you super chat just for, the sake of having a little fun and, a couple soupies never hurting anybody, we'll put that towards the end of the mailbag. That way we prioritize the mailbag for, actual mailbag questions. But that's what we have coming up on today's show. So a lot of good stuff to get to. Credit to everyone watching right now because I know that the dog days of the offseason, I would not even call these the dog days, but it's kind of low tide-ish. It's about to really start picking up, though. Post-combine, we get so many rumors, and then there's free agency, and that carries us pretty much through the month of March, and then we get to the draft in April. Can you believe it? We are, I think, 60 days away from the NFL draft, 2 months to go. It's going to be here before you know it, and I love the draft. I love the draft. So here is the Super Chat menu, though, for anyone just tuning in. You're like, what the heck is going on in this channel right now? $2 Super Chat gets you a shout-out. $5, I got to add Sean. Yeah, Sean just sent a $5 Super Chat. We've got an off-season MVP poster. $5 Super Chat gets you added to our MVP off-season poster. So let me add a couple of the recent Super Chatters to that. I know Ken G, Sean, and everyone else that has sent in. So if you want to be a part of, some Browns report lore, if you will, Super Chat $5. We'll toss your name on there for everyone to see all off-season long. All right, Ken G. And then I got to add Sean. Finnerty. I like Sean's last name because like infinity. I got to add Jacob Kistner. How can I add my best friend Jacob Kistner? And I got to add Ryan. Already have Ryan? No. Jeremy Stallman with a $5 super chat. Okay. Chowd. Okay. So, we have some coronations to go through. First up, Jacob Kistner, ladies and gentlemen, being added to our MVP poster. Fuck. Hold on. Fucking the eye hole. Okay. Name that movie. Right there. Jacob Kistner. Ryan Chowdhury. This is making for some awful radio. But you know what? We love you guys at home. So we don't care. Ryan Chowdhury, Ken G. And then we're going to get into the show. Because my boss is probably going to slack me about this later on. Oopsie doopsies. Ken G. And now Sean. There we go. Voila. New additions to the offseason MVP board. So let's throw Jeremy's super chat on screen. Oh, there it is right there. You beat me to it. I feel we need to pick our picks unless I feel like we need to keep our picks this year unless we can get a blockbuster deal. Jeremy, I think that's what you meant to say, and I know sometimes the autocorrect on super chats can be a little of a biatch. I feel like we need to keep our picks this year unless we can get a blockbuster deal. I don't see the way the Browns move into round one. They got a long way to jump, and that would probably include next year's first rounder to get from 54 to like the minimum 32. So my suspicion is they're not going to be moving up. If they do move up, we're talking about moving up in round two. I could see the Browns trading back because they've done it before, so you can't quite rule it out. Although I feel like the Browns are going to feel pretty confident about needing to have a big pick at 54 since they won't be as big spenders in free agency this year. So last year, if you remember, my mantra was the Browns went into the draft with no needs for 2024. They satisfied all their team needs during free agency last year. I don't think that'll be the case this year. So they are going to have to either draft a interior defensive lineman because they let 2 or 3 of those guys walk, draft a wide receiver because they don't sign a Mike Evans or a Michael Pittman or a Marquise Brown or a big name like that. And as a result, that 54th overall pick will be very valuable for Cleveland finding an impact guy for year one. All right, so that is our super chat from Jeremy. Let's get into the show. We have blue-balled everyone far too long. Okay, so we are talking about Andrew Berry's press conference today. I've got some takeaways from it, a lot of things to run through, so hope you guys enjoy the show. Are we ready to get the show on the road? All right, let's do this thing. All right, take 2. Okay, 1 second. Some production issues right now. Take 2. Push me across. 3, 2. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that, everyone. We hit the wrong button or two, and, well, that's what happened. So, let's start over from right here. That sound good to you? All right, here we go. So, 3, 2, 1. Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here reacting to Andrew Berry's press conference today at the NFL Combine because I have some big takeaways from this. I feel like Andrew Berry, I didn't think he showed his cards too much, but I do think he said some things that we can kind of run with a little bit. Now, before we get into his key takeaways, selfishly, I do ask for you to subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Here at Chat Sports, we send 6 of our more senior, hosts and producers to Indianapolis to cover the 2024 NFL Combine, and I want to go next year. But it is a priority thing. It's a seniority thing, and the bigger channels get to go. So more subscribers means I can go next year, hopefully. So help me out by clicking that subscribe button if you have not already. Now let's get into my first big takeaway from Andrew Berry's press conference, which is no real Nick Chubb update, right? In fact, that's pretty much word for word what Andrew Berry said. But I do think that what he didn't say was also very important. Now let's roll the tape and see what Mr. Berry had to say on Chubb.
Nick is a popular discussion point. I meant what I said about him at the end of the season. Any conversations that we have with him or his reps, honestly, will stay between will stay between us. If anything were to change with his status, you guys would be the first to know when that does happen. Yeah, Chris, he's done a great job. Yeah, you guys know Nick. He works his tail off. He does everything in his power to make sure that he can recover as quickly as possible. It still is very early, and we're 6 months away from training camp. So to say anything more definitively than I did at in the middle of January, it would probably be inaccurate.
My first gut reaction to listening to Berry say that was, I don't love that, and here's why. And maybe this is just the offseason boredom kind of kicking in a little bit, and that could be a chunk of this. But I don't think what Berry said there weighs anything at all for Nick Chubb possibly getting released or anything. I don't think Nick Chubb will get released, and I don't think what Andrew Berry said makes me believe that's a possibility more or less. But what he did say, or didn't say, I should say, is he didn't really talk about Nick Chubb's injury update. And that makes me wonder, what's the level of confidence that Chubb will be ready towards the beginning of the year? I don't think he'll be ready by training camp. I think it's a long shot he plays week 1, week 2, or week 3. But I do wonder if the Browns believe he'll be ready to go towards the beginning of 2024. And I wonder if that's what they are kind of keeping hush-hush right now, is maybe the rehab isn't going so spectacular, where Cleveland feels like they're going to have Chubb back for at least the first half or the second half of the 2024 season. So that is my takeaway from that. Not that is a sign that the Browns might be moving on from Nick Chubb. No, none of that. I don't believe any of that argument or anything of that nature. I'm more concerned about whether or not Chubb will be ready to roll by at least the halfway point of next year, because that feels like it's very much up in the air, and I wish Berry was a little bit more confident and committal to Nick Chubb rehab updates and not being so hush-hush about it, because every time he talks about Nick Chubb's rehab, we get some good stories about him not being on crutches at the Rams game, but then we get updates like that where there is no update, but he has good updates for other players, and kind of makes you wonder a little bit. I could be reading into it too much. That's definitely a very real possibility, but maybe you guys feel the same way as I do. Now, let's move on to my second takeaway from Andrew Berry's press conference, which is Deshaun Watson is throwing soon. So, Nick Chubb, Andrew Berry did not have any update on Nick Chubb, or at least did not share one, but he did have an update that he did share with us on Deshaun Watson. And here's what he said.
Yeah, Mary Kay, that is accurate. Deshaun will begin throwing, next month. He's worked his tail off in terms of his rehab and recovery. He's in a really good place. We're excited, when the spring hits and we can get him back on the field. But he's making really good progress, and we're really excited to see that continue.
So I know that the season is still 6 months away, but I do think it is extremely important that Deshaun Watson is back with the team and throwing for OTAs and minicamp, because Deshaun Watson last year got off to a bit of a slow start. Deshaun Watson historically has gotten off to slow starts. And so whatever we can do to minimize the slow start tendencies from Deshaun Watson, I'm all for it. And that likely means getting into a rhythm in April and May and not starting all over again in August. Because last year it felt like it took so long to kind of get Watson back into the rhythm, back into the swing of things, and then he got hurt. Got hurt against the Titans, and he started to get back into the rhythm, had a good game against the Cardinals, against the Ravens, and then he gets hurt again. So let's try and make sure that he has plenty of time to get back up to 100% game speed and everything throughout the offseason, and he's not picking up a new offense in August. Now, with that all being said, there was another rumor that came out during the last 48, 72 hours, which is there is no big signing coming at wide receiver. At least that's what Terry Pluto thinks, and he covers the Browns. And I don't think his word is the word of the God, but I do think he has some good connections in Berea, and it's definitely something to keep an eye on. So if the Browns aren't going to be bringing in a Mike Evans or a Michael Pittman or a Marquise Brown, they're going to need an absolute incredible season out of Deshaun Watson, which, well, they're going to need a better season. Like, they've got an incredible defense, so it's not like Deshaun Watson will have to carry this team by any means, but they're going to need superstar quarterback play to get them over the hump in January. And so if you're not going to have another star wide receiver, which you shouldn't have to need when you've got Deshaun Watson, but when you're in the AFC and it's like a 5-team Cold War of just all these just super teams with the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, the Bengals, the Browns, and on and on and on, yeah, you're going to need a lot of firepower to take down some of those teams. So I think it is important for the Browns to improve at wide receiver, but if they're unable to make a big splash signing, then it's important to get Deshaun Watson back in April so we can get into a rhythm quicker with his new offensive coordinator and, some new personnel to go along with it. All right, what's your confidence level, though, in Deshaun Watson? Scale it 1 to 10. 10 being you think he's going to go out there and he's going to play an all-pro caliber season. 1 being it's going to be a complete abomination and he'll be benched by week 3. I am much closer to 10 than 1. Before we get on to the rest of today's show, I do want to share some information with you guys about our sponsor today, which is Prize Picks. Thanks to Prize Picks, I've had an absolute blast this football season, or this past football season, but the action on the floor is now heating up. Now, what is Prize Picks? I should probably start there. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. You pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Whether it's tournament season or the fight for the playoff home court, there's no shortage of high-stakes basketball moments this time of year. Get in on the excitement with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. Now, I love baseball, so if you want to ride along with me for some season-long player stat projections, these are the ones I'm going with here. I'm taking the more on Mookie Betts' season home run total at 32.5, and I'm also fading Manny Machado. I'm taking the less on him at 30.5. Prize Picks, by the way, even offers injury insurance so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. Say for basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player projection won't count against you and the rest of your entry stays alive. Download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first-time deposit match for up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Some other takeaways I've got from Andrew Berry's press conference at the Combine. I'm going to bundle these two together. Andrew Berry announced that the team will be going back to the Greenbrier Resort in West Virginia, where they started training camp last year, and he announced that the team will be doing a joint practice with the Minnesota Vikings in Berea. So, Andrew Berry made both of these announcements during the press conference or shortly after the press conference today. As for the Greenbrier Resort one, I'm pretty excited for this. I ultimately feel like unless you're on the team, I don't think you can have a very strong opinion as to whether or not this is a good or bad thing. I think a big reason for going to Greenbrier and doing these remote training camp starts or just, periods is for a level of team bonding and removing the distractions. And how can I comment on whether or not it's good team bonding or whether or not it's a good distraction remover if I'm not on the team? So if he feels that it was valuable last year, I'm going to take him and Kevin Stefanski's word for it. And I'm excited that they're running it back. I'm sure the players are pretty upbeat about it. I don't know. I'm not one of them. But I would be on board with going on to a nice resort in Greenbrier Greenbrier, West Virginia. A little bit cooler up in the mountains in the hot days of late July, early August. As for hosting a joint practice with the Minnesota Vikings, game on. I mean, the Browns had a joint practice with the Philadelphia Eagles last year, and it's honestly better than preseason football in some ways because both teams are going to play their ones, which you don't usually see during preseason games, and you're going to get a little bit more of a physical and chippiness, and whereas in the preseason games, you got guys battling for a roster spot, and you're going to get some third stringers making some great plays out there, but you're not going to see the starters. And I'd rather see the starters. So I'm all aboard getting joint practices with other teams. So Minnesota Vikings are coming to Berea, which also signals a Browns-Vikings preseason game. Fifth and final takeaway from AB's press conference. Andrew Berry has a trade fetish. He needs to go check himself into rehab because Andrew Berry said that the Browns are going to be making a proposal at the league meetings next month for the NFL to postpone their NFL trade deadline. Now, it currently stays at the last week of October and the beginning of November. But Andrew Berry and the Browns have some very good points for why it should be pushed back a little bit. For starters, when the NFL expanded from 17 weeks to 18 weeks, they didn't move the NFL trade deadline. They added an extra game, but the NFL trade deadline did not reflect that. But another really good point that Andrew Berry made was that the NFL, compared to the other big three sports leagues in North America, their trade deadline, just calendar-wise, is way earlier than every other league. In the NFL, teams play about 44% of their games before the NFL trade deadline. Usually 7 or 8 games depending on when your bye is, okay? In the NBA, you've played almost 2/3 of your game before the trade deadline. In the MLB, very similar, 65-ish%. The NHL, you've played almost the entire season, nearly 3/4 before the NFL trade deadline. And so credit to Andrew Berry and the Browns for kind of calling the NFL out for something that's just a little bit outdated and needs to be updated, which is push back the trade deadline. That way teams have a much better idea going into the final stretch what their needs are, whether they are buyers or sellers, and more importantly, if more injuries pick up, and football's got more injuries than any other sport does, they can make up for those injuries and they can go out and make a trade if needed. So I'm a big fan of pushing back the trade deadline. Selfishly, I also love just talking about trades. So content creators can rejoice because it's an extra week to talk about trades. But I think this is a great idea by the Browns. Kudos to them for being at the forefront of this, and hopefully it gets approved during the league meetings next month in, I think, Orlando. But how would you grade Andrew Berry as a GM? I ask this question because Chat Sports sent 6 delegates up to Indianapolis, and Chase Sr., who covers our 49ers channel and our Eagles channel as well, he was able to stop by Andrew Berry's press conference, and he messaged me after it. He's like, dude, I had no idea Andrew Berry was this smart of a guy. And I was like, dude, Andrew Berry is one of the most intelligent and articulate GMs, and every time he speaks, I enjoy listening to him. I love listening to Andrew Berry press conferences because the way he conveys information, I feel like you just sit back and you're just smarter for just listening to Andrew Berry. I mean, you can feel the iviness just coming through the headphones when Andrew Berry's at the podium. So how would you grade Andrew Berry as a GM, A, B, C, D, or F? I would give him an A grade. To wrap up the show, let's pick a card. We've got producer Cullen with us today. Cullen, which one do you want to go with?
Tough question. I say for Nick Chubb, we'll go 2 + 4, 6, and 6 of hearts.
6 of hearts? Okay. I'm going to go with Ace of Spades. Ace of Spades! Let's go! Let's go! Ace of Spades! Bingo! That's what I'm talking about. Needed that. Let's go. Ace of Spades. First of the offseason. That's one. That's one, baby. Let's fucking go. We'll see you guys later. Let's go, Brownies. Ace of Spades. Let's fucking go. Ace of Spades.
That was huge.
Dude, when I said it, I felt it too. I felt it. Had a good feeling. Let's go. That's what I'm talking about. Will Martin with a super chat. I'm sweating like a dog in a Chinese restaurant. Name that movie. It is hot in this studio right now. Oh, boy. Will Martin, $2 super chat. Will, thank you so much. Let's go. Dog bowl for the ace of spades. Mr. Atwell, if I was feeling better, I'd be all over it. I am feeling not too great still. Battling kind of a cold and just flu-ish, like, I don't know. It's kind of a mess. But we're powering through. Let's go. Cool guys keeping score for me. PD1, producer 0. Let's go. Ace of spades. I've got it twice now in my career. King of diamonds, ace of spades. Never forget. Never forget. All right, we do have a very fun raffle going on today, so let's apprise our viewers of it. $5 super chat gets you added to our MVP offseason poster. $10 super chat. I'm going to show the fun side of it. Although if you want to see the certificate of authenticity, autographed Nick Chubb helmet, $10 super chat gets you added. We're going to do that drawing at the end of the show. And then right now, Jeremy Stallman's got the biggest super chat at $50. If anyone sends in a super chat bigger than $50, well, you'll be getting this autographed Cleveland Browns report, February 2024 MVP football. $50 right now is the number to beat from Jeremy Stallman, who is always so deserving of everything because he's such a big contributor here at the channel. All right, are we ready to jump into the next segment? We're going to talk about some free agency rumors. I thought you guys might be interested to hear what's the latest on some of the marquee free agents for the Browns. So we got that coming up. Okay, let's do this thing. Coming up on today's show, we're going to react to an article from Mary Kay Cabot where she ran through what she's hearing on some of the marquee free agents for the Browns, whether or not they're going to be returning or walking in free agency. So let's not waste any more time. Let's dive right into it. Let's start with quarterback Joe Flacco. This is a very unique situation. How often do teams let a quarterback that start a playoff game for them walk in free agency? That seems like good trivia right there. And I feel like it's probably happened to the Texans a lot. But this one's definitely a very delicate case. And here's what Mary Kay had to say on what's going on with Flacco and the Browns. Flacco, 39, plans to test the free agent waters when the negotiating period opens March 11th, and the league officially opens for business on March 13th, a league source tells Cleveland.com. The Browns and Flacco have expressed mutual interest in having him return to Cleveland, but Flacco's first choice would be to sign with a team that either views him as a starter or gives him a chance to compete for the job. Personally, I don't know what to make of Flacco's free agency stock, right? Is he a guy that teams are going to pursue heavily? Like Jacoby Brissett got a 1-year, $8 million contract from the Commanders last offseason. Is Flacco going to get something similar? Because if so, well, I'm sure the Browns would have loved to have brought Jacoby Brissett back last offseason, but they weren't going to spend $8 million on a backup quarterback. And if Joe Flacco gets $8 million, I don't think the Browns are going to spend $8 million on a backup quarterback for Flacco either, right? You look at his numbers, NFL Comeback Player of the Year award winner, 1,600 yards and 13 touchdowns. Like, there's going to be teams that are interested in Flacco. I just don't know how much interest there will be from a dollar perspective, right? Are they going to be interested in making a sizable investment in him? Nothing crazy, but 1 year, $7, $8, $9 million? Or are they going to view that as, hey, that was an awesome run you had with the Browns, but we're not going to be the ones that get stuck with the big bill afterwards? I think that was a flash in the pan. I don't think you're going to be able to repeat that the next year, given your age. But Flacco played some of his best NFL football with the Browns. Now, if I had to come up with a list of destinations for Joe, excluding the Browns, I think some of these teams could make some sense if certain dominoes fall, right? If Atlanta doesn't get Justin Fields and they can't move up in the draft, maybe they view Flacco as a good short-term gap quarterback. Maybe a return to Denver. They're going to move on from Russell Wilson. If they can't move up for a quarterback, maybe they view Flacco as a good short-term gap quarterback. What if the Vikings let Kirk Cousins walk and they too can't move up? Like, I could see Flacco landing there. Patriots with Alex Van Pelt. That could be one to watch for. If the Buccaneers don't give Baker all the money he's looking for and he goes to one of these other teams, maybe Tampa Bay is interested in Joe Flacco. How about the Washington Commanders? If they draft a guy like Drake May or Jaden Daniels, some people think Drake May should sit for a year. Maybe Flacco could come in and start for a season until Drake May is ready to roll. So I could see some of these teams giving Flacco a decent investment. I could also see these teams going, listen, what you did last year in Cleveland was awesome, but we're not going to bet $8 million that you can continue that run with a new team in a new year in a new city, a little bit older. Here's more from Mary Kay. If Flacco doesn't find greener pastures, he'd love to remain in Cleveland, even though it means backing up Deshaun Watson. If he signs elsewhere, the Browns will turn their attention to other veteran backups, such as Brissett. For those who covet Minshew, he'll aim for a starting job. Cleveland native Mitchell Trubisky, whom the Browns loved in the 2017 draft, is also free. My prediction for Joe Flacco, I think he's going to walk. I'd be on board with bringing Flacco back if I know that the emotional side can be put to the side. Like, can this locker room accept having Joe Flacco be the backup if things get a little bit dicey with Watson? Or does everyone want to pull the plug on Watson super quickly because of what we saw out of Joe Flacco last year? Is it going to be a little bit of a distraction, or could everyone be professionals about it? And Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry in their press conferences were like, everyone can be professionals about it, but it's a little easier to say that in January versus at halftime in October. So that's something to factor into the decision a little bit. I ultimately just feel like the Browns aren't going to be in the market to be spending $8 million on a backup contract for Joe Flacco. If he finds that money elsewhere, I don't think the Browns are going to match it. So do you want Joe Flacco back? Let me get your opinion on this subject right now really quick. Yes or no. Scroll on down. This is the pinned comment, so if YouTube, she likes to put ad breaks around this spot. If she does, scrolling down, type a Y or an N. Moving on to our second free agent, it is Za'Darius Smith, the defensive end, whom the Browns traded for last offseason from the Vikings. Here's what Mary Kay had to say on Za'Darius Smith. The Browns would love to re-sign defensive end Za'Darius Smith, but he'll likely hit the market next month and let free agency help determine his price. If Smith, the former Raven and Packer, signs elsewhere, the Browns will look at other defensive linemen in what promises to be a deep class. But the Browns will be contenders to keep Smith. So we got that from Mary Kay. And then we have this, maybe I'm reading into it too much, but I've got a reply from Za'Darius Smith to a Browns tweet about Cleveland hosting the Vikings for joint practices during preseason next year. Za'Darius Smith's last team, and Za'Darius hit them with the eyeballs. Now, he quickly deleted that tweet right there, which I don't know if that's even like more attention to the fact that he tweeted it and then deleted it, but it's social media, it's 2024. This is what we do in the offseason. So to me, that kind of signals that Za'Darius Smith is excited to tee off against his old team, and he wants to stay in Cleveland to do so. Now, Za'Darius Smith last year didn't have that elusive double-digit sack season that so many, I hate to be demeaning, but let's just call it what it is, casual fans look for when evaluating edge rushers. It's like if you don't get 10 sacks, you're not good. That's just not true. I understand that's a little bit of an easy trap to fall to, but I think Andrew Berry said it best. When evaluating edge rushers, sacks are important, but I want to know how often are you pressuring the quarterback? How often are you disrupting the play? Because, yeah, sacks are great. I'd rather have a sack than a pass breakup, but who else enjoyed snap number one of the 2023 season when Za'Darius Smith pressured Joe Burrow and forced an incomplete pass? That's one of those 40 hurries and 60 pressures right there. Pro Football Focus ranked him 16th out of 112 qualifying players. I think the Browns will offer Za'Darius Smith something in the neighborhood of a 1-year, $11.5 million contract. Maybe it takes a 2-year contract to avoid him from walking to another team, but I feel like Za'Darius Smith really hit it off in Cleveland. He loved playing under Jim Schwartz. It's great playing opposite of Myles Garrett. I'm not too concerned about the age factor. The Browns let Jadeveon Clowney walk in free agency last year, and he just had the best year of his NFL career with the Ravens this past season. So I think Za'Darius Smith at 32, almost 33, he can still produce for at least one, maybe two more seasons, and I'm willing to bet $11.5 million on it. So do you want Za'Darius Smith back? S for sign, W for walk. If the Browns re-sign Za'Darius Smith, they're likely not going to be looking for other defensive ends, right? They've got Okoronkwo. They're not going to be in the Chase Young market or any of these other defensive ends. So you got to pick one. And I'm willing to take another chance on Za'Darius Smith because I feel like he was very productive last year, and the pressures are going to turn into sacks next season. And $11 million could be a bargain if you get 10 sacks out of him. Moving on to our third free agent to talk about today, it is Sione Takitaki, former day 2 pick, third round pick out of BYU for Cleveland, now entering what's going to be a 6th NFL offseason. And here's what Mary Kay had to say. He's a strong candidate to be the Browns' starting middle linebacker in 2024. But first, he and the Browns must agree on an extension, or they must re-sign him once he sees what else is out there. Ideally, the Browns will make an offer he can't refuse, and he won't hit the market. Takitaki loves playing for defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz and wants to remain with the team that drafted him. First reaction, middle linebacker. We're talking about Anthony Walker's job. Now, Takitaki was Anthony Walker's backup, and he was the starting Sam linebacker by the time Walker went down, which unfortunately was more often than we would like over the last couple of years. Takitaki was the guy that made the transition over to middle linebacker. So are the Browns planning to move on from Anthony Walker? Sign Takitaki? I mean, you can look at the depth chart right now. They want to move on from AWalk, slide Takitaki over to middle linebacker, and then you can draft a guy or sign a cheap free agent. Unfortunately, maybe Tony Fields, or if they feel really good about Diabate just competing for that role, I don't think that that should be their, first plan of attack. But man, moving on from Anthony Walker, I mean, that was my big takeaway from what MKC just wrote there about you want to move Takitaki to middle. That means you don't have faith in Anthony Walker staying healthy, and I don't think that's a bad opinion to have because Walker, like I said this a bazillion times on the channel, when he's on the field for Cleveland is awesome. But when he's not on the field, he is sorely missed. So do you want to be dependent on a guy that you can't depend on? That seems like a bad bet to make, right? Takitaki, you can look at what he did this past season, and then along with the previous 4 years, he's been a very consistent linebacker for Cleveland. He bounced back very nicely after his torn ACL in 2022, hit the ground running, was ready to roll as soon as week 1 rolled around in 2023. So I feel like the Browns, and rightfully so, do have a little bit of a crush on Takitaki, especially for what his value is, like what it would cost to get him versus his production. Linebackers are not a spot that teams are paying a ton of money on. So if you can get good linebacker play for very cheap, that is music to a GM's ears. So here's my projected contract for Takitaki, who signed a 1-year, $2.3 million contract last year. How about a 2-year, $6 million contract, right? A little bit of a pay bump, an extra year on it. If you really want to avoid him testing the free agent market and going out there and seeing what other offers he can get, give him a bit of a longer-term insurance, more than just 1 year, increase his pay a little bit, and you're getting a starting middle linebacker for $3 million. If you feel like Takitaki is ready for that role, that's a really good deal right there. All right, 2 more free agents to look at in just a moment. But first, we do have an awesome deal still on sale at Fanatics. It's this Brownie the Elf t-shirt right here. So if you want to up your Cleveland Browns wardrobe, go to chatsports.com/elfshirt. I put that link in the comments and description of today's video because I know none of you guys wrote that down. So if you want to get some more Browns gear, take this shirt right here, or you can browse around a little bit. But you got to use our link, though, to get that 30% off deal. Fourth free agent to talk about today, defensive tackle Jordan Elliott. You knew it was coming. Contract year, Jordan Elliott, breakout season. And now he put himself in a really nice position to get some cheddar this offseason. But he's not the only free agent interior defensive lineman. It's Jordan Elliott, Maurice Hurst, and Shelby Harris. 3/4 of your defensive tackle rotation with Dalvin Tomlinson being the only guy under contract. And all three of these guys had strong seasons. Now, on paper, you might argue that Jordan Elliott was the best. PFF would say he was actually the worst, but I don't think PFF is the only way, and I definitely don't think it's the last way to determine whether a player is good or not. We probably read into PFF a little bit too much, and I can be guilty of that. But if I'm looking at these three guys here, here's my preference order on who I would like to re-sign the most. Number one is Maurice Hurst. I think he was the best of the bunch at stretches. The locker room loved him, and he's probably the cheapest of the bunch. So talk about absolute bang for your buck right there. Number two is Shelby Harris. Now, he's a bit older, right? He's going to be turning 33 soon. However, I do feel like Shelby Harris was very impactful for the Browns this past year. He did make some big plays for Cleveland. He got his paws up. He had some nice pass breakups. So I'm a big fan of Shelby Hurst. And then finally, I've got Jordan Elliott at number three. I saw 3 tough seasons, and hey, you're not going to be your best your rookie year most likely. But then I saw him have a breakout year and a contract season. I don't know if it's wise for Cleveland to pay Jordan Elliott for one good year after 3 disappointing seasons, right? I think you should let Jordan Elliott test the open market. If he goes out in the open market and he finds out he's not going to be getting a big contract from another team, then yeah, I'm open to re-signing Elliott, but I don't want to be the team that pays the Elliott the biggest offer. If someone else has a bigger offer for Elliott, I don't want to see Cleveland match it. If Elliott goes, listen, teams X, Y, and Z are offering me 1, 2, 3, the Browns go, listen, this was our offer from you. None of those teams are above that offer. So if you want to come back for the same amount of money that team Y has given you, yeah, let's do it. But if team Z's got more offer, then we're going to probably let you walk. Now, which of those 3 defensive tackles do you want to re-sign? Maurice Hurst does come off a torn pec, and unfortunately, injuries have been a big part of his NFL career. But man, when he's healthy, I also think there's like a human element to it. And I'm not in the locker room, so I'm not the best to say, but everyone I've ever talked to said Maurice Hurst is just a ball of energy in that Cleveland Browns locker room. And you never want to lose the funny guys. The funny guys keep the world moving. You need the funny guys in the office. Otherwise, it's just dry and boring. 5th and final free agent is tight end Harrison Bryant. Harrison Bryant from Alabama he's gone. I mean, I don't think the Browns are going to be bringing him back. And I feel like this might be making way too big of a deal out of one moment. But I just kind of wonder, like, Harrison Bryant doesn't let that pass against the Steelers go through his hands. Maybe he's coming back. And I know that's just one play, and I know that's not how it works. But I also know that Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, while they are very bright minds, they are humans. And these thoughts may be creeping into their minds when they're, at the Oval Office. And they're like, can't do it. Let's just go a different direction and kind of start over at tight end 2, tight end 3. That's not going to ultimately make or break the 2024 Cleveland Browns season. The Browns tight end room, though, if they move on from Harrison Bryant, Jordan Akins is a cut candidate. So if they don't bring back Harrison Bryant, my suspicion is Jordan Akins may have an easier path to returning. But if they do move on from Akins to save cap space and they let Harrison Bryant walk, they're going to have to pretty much rebuild this entire tight end room because Zaire Mitchell-Payton has been a practice squad guy for the Browns his entire career. So look for a tight end pick in day 3 of the NFL draft. They haven't drafted a tight end since Harrison Bryant, just off the top of my head. So it's been 4 years. They're kind of due to replenish the tight end crop a little bit. So keep an eye on the tight ends in this upcoming draft class. All right, let's pick a card here. What do we think? Ace of Spades?
Ace of Spades would be nuts. Fan of Za'Darius Smith, 9. 9.
Yep.
So go with 9.
Okay.
9 of diamonds.
9 of diamonds. I like it. I'm going to go with the Queen of Clubs. Jack of Spades. Jack of Spades. That was close. All right. We will sign off, and we will see you guys later. Jeremy Stallman, ladies and gentlemen, yet again, we need 99 on the team next year. That's a must. I want him back too. I'd rather have Za'Darius Smith than Chase Young. Is that a hot take? Is that a hot take, everyone? I'd rather have Za'Darius Smith back. Jeremy Stallman with a $2 super chat. What about funny-looking guys? What is that in reference to? Did I say something? What am I missing, Jeremy, here? Fill me in. I'm in the dark. What about funny-looking guys, LOL? What? Jeremy, I'm lost, dude. Guide me to the light. What about funny-looking guys? What funny-looking guys? One quick reminder before we get into the mailbag, though. If you are just tuning in by chance, biggest super chat for the month of February, which is currently $50, is going to get this autographed Browns Report football for the month of February 2024. So if you want to have this autographed football from yours truly, $50+ super chat, so $51, and you'd be the You'd be the current leader in the clubhouse. And then finally, $10 super chat gets you added to the giveaway. We're doing this Nick Chubb autographed helmet. So if you want to get the autographed number 24 helmet, $10 super chat gets you entered into that, and then we'll do that at the end of the mailbag. Okay. Are we ready to... Oh, you said Hurst is a funny guy. What about funny-looking guys? Okay. Jacob, thank you very much for doing my job better than I do. I like funny-looking guys. Yeah. Let's get some Cosmo Kramers of the world in there. Let's do that. You need a Kramer. You need a Kramer. You need a Dwight. There's no funny-looking guys in Friends, I feel like, though. Yeah. Need a Kramer. Okay. Are we ready to jump into our mailbag? All right. Let's do this thing. Let's talk Cleveland Browns mailbag. What's going on, everyone? Welcome on into a Cleveland Browns mailbag. Matthew Peterson answering questions from our live show, which airs on Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern. As Oscar Henderson is the first one to ask, doesn't sound like Chubb will be ready close to week 1. Thoughts on signing Josh Jacobs? I have never been a Josh Jacobs stan. Like, he has been so inconsistent year to year. I mean, you can look at his career arc here. It's good, bad, good, bad. And I was all the way out on Josh Jacobs after 2022, despite him winning the rushing title. But you could make the argument he's due for a good year. However, I don't think the Browns are going to have much interest in Josh Jacobs. He's probably going to be a little bit too rich for their liking. But if they feel like Nick Chubb is going to miss a severe amount of time in 2024, then they should look at all options at running back. It's just really difficult to say. And this might put the Browns in a bind when free agency starts in 2 weeks. They may not have a very clear picture of when Nick Chubb's returning, and they'll have to pick a lane. You want to go the cheap, short, like low-risk, low-cost running back route, $2-3 million RB, or do you want to swing for a $7-9 million RB when you don't know when Nick Chubb is going to be back? Personally, I'm not on board with just running it back with Jerome Ford, so I'm definitely open to swinging a little bit bigger at running back because you got to have someone else to lead the running back room until Nick Chubb returns. But if Nick Chubb's not going to be back for the first quarter, third, half of the season, whatever it is, I'm okay with a bigger name running back, but not Josh Jacobs. I just don't think Josh Jacobs is all that great. It's just that simple. All right, would you sign Josh Jacobs, though? Yes or no? I'd rather go like a Tony Pollard or an Austin Eckler. I think they're going to be a little bit cheaper than Josh Jacobs, and I think they are better than Josh Jacobs. So those would be my preferred kind of bigger fish named RBs. Like DeAndre Swift would be really cool instead of a Josh Jacobs. Oren Smith, what are the chances we can get speak of the devil, DeAndre Swift and Gabe Davis, because I think Evans will go to the Chiefs. Okay, let's talk about Mike Evans just being off the table. DeAndre Swift, I feel like, is going to have a good market from Philadelphia. DeAndre Swift was their best running back since Shady McCoy. I think he was better last year than Miles Sanders was for all of his years in Philadelphia. So I'd be surprised if Philly lets DeAndre Swift leave. If they do, it's probably because another team outbid them. And I don't think the Browns are going to be that team that gets into a bidding war for a running back. So I don't think the chances are great. Gabe Davis, I think, has much better chances. Now, I'm not really sure what his market's going to look like because, Allen Lazard was the highest paid wide receiver last year. Is Gabe Davis really going to make double what Allen Lazard made? He's better, but he's not double better. So I think the Browns will probably put a limit of $10 to $11 million on average for a receiver. And if Gabe Davis can find 12 to 13, he's probably not going to be a Cleveland Brown. But I'm sure the Browns are going to express interest in Gabe Davis. But we saw last year, Cleveland reportedly expressed interest in Javon Hargrave and Jesse Bates. And they ended up going with slightly cheaper guys at those same positions, Dalvin Tomlinson and Juan Thornhill. So we'll see what Gabe Davis gets in the open market. Dylan Sutcliffe, do you think we trade for T. Higgins if he gets franchise tagged? Dylan, he has been franchise tagged by the Cincinnati Bengals, but no. I do not see the Browns and the Bengals making a blockbuster trade. Interdivision trades are very rare. They do happen, right? TJ Hawkinson got traded from the Lions to the Vikings, but I don't think the Browns and the Bengals, with where they're currently at, like competing for division title-wise, are going to make that kind of deal. The Bengals, they just wouldn't bet on T. Higgins not coming back to get them for 2 revenge games. Just not going to happen. All right, we have more questions to get to on today's mailbag, but first, a quick shout-out to our sponsor, which is Prize Picks. Now, what is Prize Picks, you might be asking? Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. All you do is pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Conference tournaments are almost here, which means the biggest moments in college basketball are getting closer. Be a part of the action on Prize Picks for both men's and women's college basketball. Now, I love basketball, but I also love baseball. So if you want to get into some season-long stat projections with me, go ahead with Prize Picks, because we know baseball can be a bit dry for a good chunk of the summer, especially if your team's not doing well. But if you've got the more on Mookie Betts' home run total, you've got something to watch for every single night. So go to Prize Picks right now, and when you go to prizepicks.com and use code CLNS, you're going to get a deposit match up to $100. So download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. I have put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. XX Epic Jet XX. With there being a lot of big-name free agents at defensive line, could they sign someone like a Grover Stewart, Shaq Barrett, Fletcher Cox, etc.? Okay, let's run through some of the big names. I don't think Chris Jones is going to leave Kansas City. It seems like the Chiefs, if they truly do have to pick between Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed, they're going to pick Chris Jones because they have learned that they have no problem drafting good corners. So I think there's a chance that they might tag and trade L'Jarius Sneed versus losing Chris Jones because of paying L'Jarius Sneed. But that's for our Chiefs Report channel. As for a guy like Justin Madubuike from the Baltimore Ravens, looks like he's going to get franchise tag. So kind of remove him from your wish list. Grover Stewart is interesting. He missed some time last season due to a suspension, so that might bring his cost down a little bit. Shaq Barrett, he's not going to play in the interior. Fletcher Cox, I feel like, is just going to play for the Eagles or he's going to retire. I don't think the Browns are going to be big spenders on the interior defensive line. They've got 3 free agents in Shelby Harris, Maurice Hurst, and Jordan Elliott. My suspicion is they're going to look to bring at least one of those guys back. And if they bring one of those guys back, they've got that one guy, Dalvin Tomlinson, Siaka Ika, and then they draft one, and that's your 4-man rotation. But if they don't want to have a rookie and Siaka Ika, who's going to be essentially a rookie next year since he didn't play at all last year, they may try to bring back 2 of those guys. And then it is Dalvin Tomlinson, Siaka Ika, and 2 of the 3 defensive tackle free agents. I feel like that is a much more likely outcome for the Browns' interior defensive line. Debbie, Petey, do you think the trade deadline should be extended by 2 weeks? The Browns are asking the NFL to do that. I think it's good. I do think the Browns are in the right here for asking the NFL to push back the NFL trade deadline from late October to mid-November. The Browns have some good reasons to, right? One, the NFL added on an extra game. They now play 17 games, but the NFL trade deadline did not move despite an extra week being added. So it should reflect that, but we know you can't quite prorate. 1 extra week means the NFL trade deadline moves back 1/17 because I moved from a Tuesday to a Thursday. That doesn't do a whole lot for you. But what's more importantly is The NFL, their trade deadline happens before 50% of the games are played in their season. The NHL, the MLB, and the NBA, all of their trade deadlines happen well after the 50% mark of their seasons and their games being played. So I think the NFL is probably just a little bit behind on this, and bravo and kudos to the Browns for kind of calling out the NFL for having an antiquated NFL trade deadline. You can look at the big four trade deadlines right now. Like the NFL is when 44, roughly, give or take, depending on your buy is, percent of the games are played. Look at the NBA, the MLB, the NHL, all much later in the season. So, Debbie, I do believe that the NFL should push the trade deadline back by a week or two. Really helps teams out figure out what their needs are. With all the injuries teams pick up every single week, and the season being a little bit longer. Tim Green, third round, pick 85. Does Andrew Berry look at Blake Corum, Michigan running back, ranked 94? I'm sure the Browns are going to do a lot of research on the running backs in this draft class. Like, even if Nick Chubb never went down last year, let's say Nick Chubb played the season and had 1,700 yards and 12 touchdowns. Phenomenal year for 24. I still think the Browns would probably be looking for a running back because Nick Chubb would still be entering the last year of his contract and approaching the age of 30. So Cleveland may feel like even if Nick Chubb is only here for another season or two, he may not have that same amount of gas left in the tank, and he may need an extra breather here or there. Now, as for Blake Corum specifically, I like Corum, but I do have concerns about him being similar to all the other Wisconsin running backs we saw. The Monty Balls, the James Whites, the Melvin Gordons, that they got a boatload of touchdowns, but they also ran behind NFL offensive linemen, and I shouldn't say it's easy to score, but when all of your touchdowns are like 2-yard plunges, that's probably not going to translate super duper well over to the NFL. So I've got my concerns over Corum. Plus, he did suffer a knee injury in college, which Chubb did too, and he turned out just fine in the NFL. But I don't think Blake Corum is super high on my list. He's kind of falling down my list the last few weeks. Jackson Green, do you see the Browns possibly trading Greg Newsome for Jameson Williams from the Lions? Or is that unreal since Jameson is really young? The Lions do need help at corner. I don't think they will move on from Jameson Williams, though. Like, there was some frustrations in Detroit early on with Jameson Williams. Like, of course, it was a bummer that he pretty much missed nearly all of his rookie season because he tore his ACL in January in the national championship for Alabama, the January prior. But he got suspended to start this past season, and then he really started to become a playmaker for them. He scored a touchdown in the NFC Championship game. Like, I don't think Detroit's going to pull the plug on a guy that they moved up in the NFL draft to get for Greg Newsome. I think they would rather just move up in the draft again to go get another cornerback rather than dealing one of their wide receivers. I think this is an unlikely trade. I don't think the Browns are also going to trade Greg Newsome. NFL has shown that they really value corners. And the Browns have learned that Denzel Ward can't play a full season. So does anyone think it's a good idea to trade away Greg Newsome, Denzel Ward's primary backup, when you know he has missed time every single year, 3 to 4 games? I don't. Ken G, is this a make or break year for Barry and Stefanski? Feeling on a new stadium and potential new location off the lake. Not a make or break year for Barry or Stefanski. I think they're both going to get extensions soon, and whether or not things go great or not great in 2024, unless things go like really like Hugh Jackson South, I don't think they're going to be moving on from either guy. So no, not a make or break for them. Feeling on a new stadium and potential new location off the lake. Okay. I used to be team anti-dome, AFC North, outdoor, Browns weather. My position completely 180'd after the Browns lost to the Saints when they were in a make-or-break spot to go to the playoffs. They were eliminated with that loss 2 years ago, and they let a team that hangs out in the Bayou, practices indoor in New Orleans, come up to Cleveland on a cold day and beat the Browns at their own game. So if you're not going to have an advantage against Southern teams in cold weather, why are we playing outside? Just for the sake of freezing our asses off? No, there's no advantage. So I am team Dome Stadium, and I don't think a Dome Stadium is going to happen in the city of Cleveland. I think it ultimately will be a move outside of Cleveland. I think the Haslams want a dome, and unless the city and the county and the state offer up some more money to help fund a dome, with, by the way, how expensive construction is now, right now. Like, I'm not here to defend Jimmy Haslam's wallet because he's a billionaire, but the price for a dome stadium is like tripled since the last time one was built because of COVID and the cost of construction and just, inflation. So I don't think a dome is going to happen in Cleveland on the lake. And I think the Browns want a dome, which means it's not going to be where it currently is. Browns are good. Do you think Flacco will find anything in free agency? And if he doesn't, does he re-sign with us? I think Flacco will have some market. I don't know if it's as big of a market as even like Jacoby Brissett had. Like, he got a 1-year, $8 million contract with the Commanders. I do wonder if teams are going to look at Flacco as a legitimate starting option for him, or if they're going to go, listen, what you did last year in Cleveland in that short time span was nothing short of miraculous. It was well-deserving of winning an NFL Comeback Player of the Year award. But we're not going to bet $8 million that you can keep that magic going. I feel like teams are going to be a little bit sour-ish on Joe Flacco, which would open up the possibility of him returning. But ultimately, all it takes is one team to give Joe Flacco a decent contract offer, and the Browns aren't going to spend $7 to $8 million on Flacco just to be their backup quarterback. Cool guy called Zone. Instead of wide receiver first in the draft for our second-round pick, why not a defensive lineman to be on the other side of Garrett or an interior D lineman? What do you think? When it comes to the draft, it's always a little bit tough to talk about what position the Browns should be targeting before free agency, right? If Cleveland goes into free agency and they sign a big-name wide receiver, then cool guy. I am completely on board with going interior defensive line. And the same goes if it's reversed. So let's kind of pause on talking about position needs until after free agency. But surface level-wise, I'm always team best player available. And that seems to be the path Andrew Berry has gone. Drafted Cedric Tillman, drafted Martin Emerson with his first picks in each of those drafts, and wide receiver and cornerback were not dire needs for Cleveland at that moment. So Andrew Berry and the Browns have a tendency to draft which player they think is the best, and then they'll figure out a spot and a need for him later on in his Browns career if it's not in his rookie season. Tyrone, we need to re-sign Cooper. I'll stop you right there. Cooper's not going anywhere. He is under contract. So I got great news, Tyrone. Amari Cooper is under contract for 2024. Are you saying extend Amari Cooper for years beyond 2024? We have no wide receiver depth. Moore, Goodwin are bust. David Bell, Cedric Tillman are projects. We don't even know who our wide receiver 2 or 3 are besides Njoku. Let's slow down on Cedric Tillman being a bust. He played one rookie season. Go look at some of your favorite wide receivers. You may be surprised to see what their production was in their rookie year. Wide receiver going from college to the NFL might be one of the bigger jumps. College DBs, they're not as nearly as physical or as nasty as NFL DBs are. I mean, just the overall hash marks in college compared to the NFL creates a whole different flow and tempo and speed for quarterbacks and wide receivers compared to the NFL. And I feel like we're probably rushing to judgment too quickly on Cedric Tillman. But they do need to add some more wide receivers because Marquise Goodwin is a free agent, but Amari Cooper is under contract. B-Dog, what's going on? Do you think Nick Chubb will come back and play the same? That's the million-dollar question. I'm not going to bet against Nick Chubb. The guy's Batman. The guy overcame a very serious knee injury in college at Georgia, and he went on to have a very, very good NFL career and still has a very good NFL career. Would I bet everything on it? No. But I'm definitely not going to be the first one to jump and run to the Nick Chubb is done, move on now while you can. Nick Chubb is a guy worth betting on. He is very important to this locker room. He is more than just 5.2 yards a carry. His voice, which, he doesn't have a booming voice in that locker room. He's always a lead by example kind of guy. But he does carry a very loud stick. And I think it's important to keep that in the locker room. All right, let's pick a card to wrap up the show. Which card do you want to go with?
You know what? Not overthinking it. Queen of Spades.
Queen of Spades? I like it. I like it. I'm going to go with 4 diamonds. 6 of hearts. 6 of hearts. All right, that will do it for us on today's show. We will see you guys later. Debbie, PD, off-season trivia. I love it. Thinking positive, what week will Chubb score a touchdown? I say week 7, keeping track of our answers. Okay. Be down for week 8. Week 8. Maybe he comes back week 7, but doesn't quite find the end zone. Maybe it's next week. I'll go with week 8. Should we get ready for our little duck race? Yeah. We did not get any more $10 super chats, it looks like. So, last call, $10 super chat gets you added to a signed Nick Chubb helmet raffle we are about to do right here on the channel. Just slack the names over to TV and then copy and paste them in. Okay, I'm excited. Let's go. Tyrone, I'm sorry. You said Cedric Tillman and David Bell are projects, not busts. Okay. My bad. I misread. I'm sorry, Tyrone. I don't know if projects is even accurate, though. Like, in the NFL, like, how long can you be a project for? Quarterbacks, I feel like, can be a project for a year, maybe 2. You can't be a project for too long. At some point, you got to go out there and play. All right. So, let's wait for Cullen to get all the names in there, and then we will put the duck raffle on. I'm excited, though. Oh, boy. There she blows. Okay. So, put it into, push that across right now. Right now. Right now. There it is. Yep. Go to edit list. And show everyone. Just scroll up and down because it's on screen. So everyone can see their own names. So go to the very top. Okay. So I see. Keep going. Yep. So everyone see their own name on there? Looks pretty good to me. Right? Sometimes your name might not be right next to each other, just depending on the order you sent your super chat in. Are we ready? All right, hit set. Okay, I'm going to give the chat like 10 seconds to say, I didn't see my name, and then we can pause. Otherwise, we're rolling into this bad boy. Juicing Ducks for the Nick Chubb autographed helmet. Tim Green's looking. Got them all in there. Got a lot of duckies. A lot of duckies. Here we go. Got everyone in there, I think? Okay. Duckies, start your engine. Oren Smith. Where's my name? Oren, did you send $10 super chat in? Show it back in there. I don't want any kind of controversy. Where's Oren? But did Oren send a $10 super chat? No. I don't think Oren sent a $10 super chat in. I think no, I forgot. Okay. You can't pull my leg like that, Oren. He's trolling. Okay. That's not nice, guys. I got got. All right, here we go. Duckies. 3, 2, 1. And they're off. Look at them go. All right. It's a long canal for these ducky to swim under. But it looks like one of the Jeremy Stallmans has the lead. Tim Green is also making some noise.
I was about to say, don't count out Tim.
Now, it's a long race. You do not want to, blow your ducky load too early. Approaching the halfway point, it's anyone's race still. Too early to say.
Type your answers in the chat. Who do you think's going to win?
I like it. Here we go. 25 seconds to go. Tim Green is holding on to a sliver of a lead right now.
In the green duck, too.
Uh-oh. We've got to change. Final stretch here. 15 seconds Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? Look at that. Who's making that move? Who's making that move? Who is that? That's one of Jeremy Stallman's. That's a Jeremy Stallman ducky. 3. That's a Jeremy Stallman. 2, 1. Jeremy Stallman, ladies and gentlemen. Excuse me. Jeremy Stallman. Can't be surprised. Guy's a legend. Big baller here at the channel. And the winner of the Nick Chubb autographed helmet. Jeremy, you already have my email, but email me yet again. That way it just kind of pops up towards my top of my inbox, and I can get in contact with you so I can get you the autographed Nick Chubb helmet. Jeremy, big time winner today. Let's go, Jeremy. Very well deserving of it. What's up, Coop? We'll do one last drawing. I got it earlier. Yeah, I did. On your birthday. Everyone spam HBD Coop in the chat right now. Ace of Spades. What a good one to get it on. Oh, and Ace of Spades secret menu on Torchies. I didn't get it today, but we got Torchies for lunch. Yeah. Oh, yeah, he does. HBD Coop. Okay. One last card for Coop's birthday. You want to do 9 of what? 9 of clubs? Okay. One last call, and then we're going to sign off for the day. 3. I'm going to go 2 of diamonds.
I'll go 5 of clubs.
4 clubs. 4 clubs. All right. That will do it for us on today's show. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me yet again here on a Tuesday on the Cleveland Browns Report. We're going to sign off, and we're going to catch up with you guys later, but enjoy the rest of your day. Go Brownies.